Hello, everyone, and welcome to By the Numbers, the quintessential Counter-Strike podcast. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me, as he always does, is Duncan Doran Shields. And it turns out there's a guy called Sam who occasionally presses buttons and laughs and makes noises in the background. What a great guy. So how are we all? Can I start with just some small talk and ease the fuck into this? Because I'm fucking exhausted. I've been running around like a blue-arsed fly. I'm trying to get my fucking, I moved house. People probably can't tell right now, but I'm back in an empty fucking room.
Plus, you've got to tease people and draw it out as long as possible before you give any information about what's actually going on with your life.
Yeah, exactly. And this was I've been playing up to that, obviously, on Twitter.
Sure.
Like just saying things that are obviously true, but using like words and capitals to intimate other things. Because I fucking hate esports announcements and the way we announce shit in this fucking industry. It's childish. It's pathetic. But anyway, so yeah, I've been running around. Now, I don't know if I should even disclose a location at this point, because does that maybe reveal too much? But I don't have the psychic defense to act in my own best interests right now, because I haven't slept properly in 4 or 5 days. So I'm in Vegas.
Okay, not bad. You've been there before, well acquainted.
Yeah, exactly. Well acquainted. I actually living not too far from where I used to live. So, back fucking high rolling, living the dream out here. Obviously, you'll have to come out and check out. I got a brand new pad. It's a huge fucking sick pad. You can go on like Maria's Twitter, Maria, who I live with, if you want to have a look. And we got like a mini mansion for like no reason other than the fact the rent was the same here in Vegas as what I was paying.
Why is it cheap like?
It's because it's just a huge fucking desert. It's like
many people around it, really.
Yeah,
they can't add cheap stuff.
Yeah, they can't really fill it. So it's like I was paying like, a fair whack of rent in Atlanta for a 2-bedroom apartment. That same amount of money gets me a 5-bedroom mini mansion in Vegas. Like, so I'm here. High roll.
Getting fucking DreamHack Masters Vegas flashbacks. Great place. Yeah. Can't fill it though. 2 people in there.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I like it. You brought it back to Counter-Strike. Yeah, so look, let's start with the I'm in the news. So we'll get that fucking out the way.
Reasonable.
I am the news.
First section, I am the news. With me and top story, me.
I am the liquor. I am the liquor. So no, obviously I left D-League. So I know a lot of people probably have a lot of questions about that.
Definitely didn't leave. I actually heard that someone with an anime avatar and 200 Twitter followers had you fired. What happened is they called up, I don't even know who still works there, whoever, someone at E-League, and they were like, fire him. He used to work for Breitbart. And they go, you what? He used to work there. And then next day, pink slip, you're out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. No, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of shit that got fucking spread, mainly from the FGC, which we'll talk about in a bit. And for those who don't know, that's obviously the fighting game community.
So did this actually come out of nowhere is what I want to know.
Or what? Or had I been planning to leave?
Yeah, did you just decide one day, and then was it like a quick turnaround? Have you known this for a month or something? What's happened?
Yeah, so basically, I want to just start by saying, and there's no gun to my head. It's not a hostage situation or anything. Turner was a fucking great company to work for. Loved doing the E-League TV show. Really felt a strong attachment and friendship to a lot of the people who were there. And like I say, it got to a point where it was just like, I love this job, I love the show, and I love the people I'm working with, but I also have a very strong limit on how much bullshit I am willing to take to do something I enjoy and make money. Like if the bullshit starts to outweigh, if I'm more stressed out with the bullshit than I am overdoing the job, I'm probably going to leave that job no matter what it is. Because quality of life is absolutely fucking paramount. Not having stress in your life is paramount. And, I'm not a guy who copes particularly well with stress. People will tell you, I comfort eat. That's why my weight fluctuates all the time. I drink booze to deal with it. That's why my weight fluctuates all the time. I'll regularly go up and down 30, 40 pounds. And I was looking at some of the pictures.
You said that though. Here's the thing, comfort eat, I'm with you on that one. But when you say you drink, that's as though you've just got a massive thing of cider and someone's like, fucking hell, you're going, I'm not, this is medical.
I've got a card for it.
Tell you what, I better get started. I've got to drink 2 of these before the fucking morning for. See the doctor again. unreasonable, isn't it?
No, but it is like that. You know, you have to shave off the bullshit. Right?
See, now I'm getting worried because here's the thing. Think of his intro here, Sam. He's telling us, right, the stress was building up, I was comfy, I was drinking. So anyway, I've sold everything and moved to Vegas. Do you ever see that movie? Leaving Las Vegas. Anyway, it's the last episode, guys. Thanks for the Patreon.
No reason. And this is some hooker I've hired off the strip. She's my best friend now. No,
straight fire in that movie.
Yeah. It's Nicolas Cage's only good movie, probably. But anyway, so look, basically, like I say, none of the bullshit was coming from Turner. Like, they obviously like highly valued me, and when contract negotiations came around again, it was pretty much a layup. All I had to do was turn up and sign. But after Tekken, the fucking nonsense that was coming my way was just so like unbelievable.
When you say that, like, what do you mean? Because here's the thing: people are going to assume. Like, here's the thing: I don't know much about the fighting game community. In fact, like aside from like the fuck die goers or something, but I have actually seen through some of your tweets and some of the shit when I've like gone down the rabbit hole, seeing who the fuck are these people. Like it seems like the criticism in that scene it's dwarfs anything in Counter-Strike, right? Because in Counter-Strike, right, if you have a massive following, you're going to get some idiots. But it seemed like almost every fucker who was tweeting it was just abuse all the time.
No, and it was. So understand the situation. Like the FGC, there's two things happening simultaneously in the community. And that is, one, they absolutely reject esports. They do not
people don't know that. They actually reject even the term, right?
Yeah, they do not like the term esports. They associate it with like cheesy, overproduced, kind of competitions, fake storylines, fake hype.
Wrong. Something there. Truth.
Yeah, so they reject esports, quite vehemently, and I'm seen to them as Mr. Esports. So that was problem number one. Problem number two is that they also like their guys because it's linked very much to
that makes sense why those two would be connected, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That community, etc.
They want authenticity at all times, and they believe in sort of their perceived meritocracy. Now, what they never kind of got their head around was that, first of all, I don't need to know a fucking thing about any game to sit in a chair and talk to experts about that game. That implies that like an interviewer would need to know every subject intimately when he interviews a subject. Obviously, that's not true. Or interviews couldn't function except in a very limited capacity. What I do as a desk host is I ask questions and I direct show flow. But on top of that, we had guys from Street Fighter that absolutely fucking nailed it. Guys like Rip, Z, Sajam, Tasty Steve. These are all fucking premier talented people. They could work in any esport. Seriously, they're really good. But the key thing was they understood television, how it works, how to, wrap up a point in a sentence. I mean, how it works, right? Because you've done the show. So, you get a guy in your ear and it's, we are going to commercial. We have to go to commercial. Yeah. And you'll see some more amateurish people do some very dodgy throws. Like, we'll be back in a minute or something, and it's like, and they feel rushed and they don't finish their point. And it's just not smooth. These guys were just experts at handling show flow. So we wanted to bring them back. We also knew we had to pay a certain amount of respect to any community we did. So we wanted to bring people in from that community, but we didn't want to bring entirely new people in from that community because we wanted to work with talent that understood how television worked. So, for example, with Tekken, we brought back the original crew, and we brought in, like, Ultra David and Katana Prime as people that are more Tekken-centric. I mean, like, but again, the FGC isn't even logical in their approach to it. Like, everybody wanted this duo. This was for Injustice, rather. Everybody wanted like
ketchup and something, right?
Yeah, everybody wanted ketchup and mustard for that, but like they didn't like they didn't accept that. Like, for example, Sajam used to play Injustice. Okay. As a player, that went out the window. They didn't give a fuck about that.
So they wanted new people for every game, basically.
They wanted us to go through the process of basically hiring whoever was hot shit in that game at that time, and it just wasn't really,
which doesn't make sense, because as you're saying, actually I'm amazed if you found that many people in a game that hasn't had television experience, because remember, if you look at their events are way more like the old school lands where you could be a bit like looser and just, you know, it wasn't the same polish. As you're saying, they don't necessarily want it. So if you can find a few people who are good, I'd do the same thing if I was the producer. If this guy's straight fire and he has any connection to this other fighting game, definitely try and get this guy in. That way we're taking less risks at the fucking show bombs.
Yeah, so, and that's what we thought about. So every time one of these decisions were made, and you know this, because in season 1, like I for Counter-Strike especially, I had a lot of like influence and say in like who was on the desk. Like for example, like Mo was my pick, my idea. You know, and that was because Turner was new to the space. But it did create a very strange power dynamic in the green room, because it's like, well, Richard Lewis is also a guy that could say, well, you know, I don't want Duncan back anymore or whatever, but like I've also got to be one of the team. And like, you know, camaraderie was a little bit weird. As you know, at various points, I spent like periods kind of removed from the green room because I didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable or strange. So I recused myself from a lot of hiring influence and hiring decisions at my time in E-League. But unfortunately, because nobody ever talks about the minutiae and the intimate details of what it's like to work for a big TV company and how these things might change and shift over time, like I had like a final veto, but I always said to the producers, bring in the talent you think can do the job and I will work with anybody. That was why when Ultra David came on the show, despite him saying some not particularly nice things about
that guy seems like a cunt, mate. I mean, you can have your own opinion, but everything I've seen from that guy was just horrible shit. Like it made me really wonder, like, if I didn't know you, I would have to assume you did something utterly terrible to this guy. Like I saw one tweet where he actually just said, oh, no, don't worry. I told Richard when I met him, I hate him. And I was like, what? What's he possibly done?
Yeah. And well, so you know, like,
so some contentious people that you might, you know, if it was just on you personally, maybe you wouldn't hire him, right?
So they came to me and they were like, you know, do you want Ultra David in? And I'm like, of course I do. Like if you think he's worth it, and he's certainly a prominent figure in the FGC, my petty feelings do not matter. I will find a way to work with him, and we did, and we worked together on the show, and I thought we were getting along. And
knowing guys like that, mate, I'll bet he never said a fucking peep about it. It was just chilled out, and was seems like a nice guy. They always are, aren't they? It's a fucking joke.
Yeah, and then unfortunately he went back, and
I've no doubt he went back online, became fucking hench again.
And then
in that green room,
he was cozying up to the people who harassed me. So anyway, that's just to let you know a little bit about the FGC for context, and then I'll speed this up because I don't want to talk about me for the entire fucking show. You know, I'm not that much of a narcissist. So anyway, basically what would happen is after each game was announced, the first thing that would happen is if somebody the community didn't like wasn't hired, it was on me. And then that transitioned into, well, why is he on the show? We've got hosts in the FGC. I mean, like, forget the fact I'm meant to be the face of the TV show for every game. Yeah. And the only one I didn't do was Overwatch, and people can piece together why that might be. But you know, they would then say, well, why is he in instead of this guy? And then that transitioned into, here are some reasons why it shouldn't be that guy. So basically,
used to write for Breitbart.
Yep.
Killed 7-year-old Lauder with a tombstone pile drive. You know.
Yep. And then their assumption was that Turner didn't know any of these things every time, and of course Turner did a thorough background.
Which is hilarious.
I did a thorough. They're a major media company, so they did a thorough background check. I also had to have all sorts of legal background checks because I'm here on an exceptional person's visa, which they don't just give out, and especially not now. So I had to pass all a legal background check, you know, everything. So the idea that, like, I've got an outstanding arrest warrant in Sweden, you know, and bullshit like this, which has been said, is complete gibberish. So what they would then do is they would spam the employers, they would spam their email, they would spam them on Twitter, and they would just spread around that basically I'm a racist, I'm a sexist, I'm a homophobe, I'm a transphobe, all four of those things.
And bundled up now, right?
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm clearly a white supremacist because I wrote for a white supremacist website, even though Breitbart, while it's always been a very dodgy publication in terms of it'll publish stuff that's okay, and then it'll publish
Freedom
stuff like
speech,
climate change is utter nonsense, and you're like, fuck,
sure.
Like I've always had issues with some of the stuff they published over there. Even when I took the job, they had to persuade me to be like, no, look, it's going to be all you. No one will ever interfere. So it wasn't quite. It didn't do the shit that it did back then. That it sort of has done subsequently. So it wasn't even that extreme. And I'm not saying I agree with its characterization as a white supremacist website. I worked with a homosexual Jewish man.
They still have a tech section now, mate, that just reports on tech, like Facebook. Like it doesn't have any. It doesn't say like, by the way, at the end of Facebook, the whites are the best race. Like, no, that's real reporting as well.
Yeah. And on top of that, if you actually look at the tech section, this is how you know it's like a separate budget, because they actually criticize Trump, which people have been removed from. In the main politics section. That, for example, when Trump did the meeting on violent video games and was talking about violent video games being bad, Breitbart ran a story saying this is a joke and Trump is wrong, which wouldn't happen in any other section on Breitbart because it's basically Pravda for Trump. Though as soon as it became apparent Trump was going to win and he won the nomination, Breitbart doubled down on Trump. And you were not allowed to criticize him in the politics section.
Thing is, though, one thing I think people might not understand, this is why I asked you that like naive interviewer's question, like, oh, how bad was it? Is like people might think again, oh, maybe this has happened in Counter-Strike. Right, in Counter-Strike, here's one thing I'll say, fair play to Counter-Strike. They tend to just make their tweet or their Reddit comment, and that's it. They actually don't contact your fucking employers and harass you. And generally, that sort of thing doesn't happen in our game.
Yeah. It doesn't. It has in the past. I mean, I had a lot of shit, as you know, like with the Babam situation. That was pretty fucking, still think that's retarded to this day. But yeah, whatever. It's generally a good one for that. So anyway, my employers were just getting spammed, and I was getting spammed on Twitter. And some of the stuff I've read about me is so like egregiously not true. Like I've got a lawyer on retainer, as you know, from the PC Games In situation, and it's just like I'm even at the stage now where some of these total strangers, total nobodies who are saying this stuff, I'm just gonna find out who the fuck you are, and it's going to my lawyer, and you're just gonna get a fucking, you're just gonna get sued. Like end of story. Because I'm tired of it now. I've dealt with it for 3 years. My entire time at Turner has been smeared because they see that I work for a big corporation, and they think because it's a big corporation, they will kowtow to the mob mentality. So all of this stress, and so they did it at different times. So it happened going into Street Fighter, the first time we did Street Fighter, and then it blew over, and I was like, well, okay, they know who I am now. They won't do it again. Then we went into Injustice, and then it happened during. And you had prominent figures, like there's a guy called Pig in the Hut. Like we've squashed the beef now privately. But he said, again, how can somebody who works for Breitbart and is a neo-Nazi represent the FGC with so many people of color and so much diversity? As if I've ever said anything racist, done anything racist, thought anything racist.
Also, no connection between Breitbart and the neo-Nazis.
No. So then it
not even accurate.
So then it was community figures. So during the Injustice broadcast, actually, Turner realized and identified it was so bad, they came to me and said, do you want to sit this one out? And they said, well, you can just have a holiday. It's totally fine. And I weighed it up because I was stressed out and it was making me miserable. But I thought it's not fair on Tasty Steve, Sajam, Ripsy, all these people who've come here who I've worked with. They want to work with me. And I steer the ship. So if I tap out, it makes their jobs harder. So it's not fair. So I stuck it out. But then it happened again with Tekken, and Tekken happened after Tekken. So we got free and clear, and I was like, it's never going to happen again. Fantastic. The FGC have finally accepted that when we do E-League FGC events, I'm going to be involved. But no, it started up. And this time it lasted 10 fucking days of smears, of abuse, of my employers being hit up, of hit pieces from journalists being prepped, of people trying to dig into my past.
That's also, by the way, another detail to understand. Even big scandals in esports, like the part that we're aware of, that's like, I always say to people, if you can last 3 days without breaking, you're home free. 3 days in, people get bored of tweeting, especially when it's a scandal because they're on Twitter the whole time, So the idea is like 10 days is unreal, mate.
Yeah. So it was really intense. And I was just like, even though Turner were like, just don't worry about it, kill it with silence, just ignore it. I'm like, this is my life now.
Which is also, unfortunately, what sucks about working with big companies. I had the same thing happen when I was on Gamers with CBSI. They would always tell me, please do not address any of this in public. So it didn't matter what people were saying. I was supposed to just fucking swallow it, which is even worse, right?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. The kill it with science, not science, kill it with science. That's like Frankenstein shit. No, kill it with silence mantra. That is the one that most big PR companies have now.
Sure.
So it's like, I am not supposed to reply to somebody saying the most outrageous shit about me. And like, keep in mind, the stuff I have read is that, like, you know, I've been fired for racism. I've been racially disparaging. You know, they've just made like stuff like up, and they are saying it as a fact. And we all know from like what happened at Reddit, where I supposedly drove somebody to suicide by telling them to kill themselves, also a complete fabrication that never happened. Once these lies take root, you will never get rid of them, and they will ruin your life. So I don't want to sit there and I don't want to sit there and be silent about people saying the most heinous shit. And as I've said, the reason it upsets me so much is I can't think of anything really worse. You know, well, obviously, once we get to pedophiles, murderers, whatever, sure. But like, just in terms of a personality trait, I can't think of many things worse than a racist. Honestly, or you know, somebody who just remorselessly hates somebody else for no fucking reason whatsoever. I do not want to be characterized as that. So when the contract negotiations came around, I just said, guys, like, I cannot feasibly do this anymore. And here's what really tipped me over the edge into making the decision to quit. There was two things happened. So first, I received a lot of threats of violence. This is the other component to it. And there was an event in Atlanta called Final Round. And several people had said, if I turn up to Final Round, and I was invited just as a guest to go and attend and hang out with like Tasty Steve and the boys between events, between casting, there was several threats where they said if I turned up, I was going to get shot, I was going to get beat up. You know,
and for people who don't know, Atlanta has open carry license. People can carry guns around. So I was like, I talked to the head of security, and people will remember I've had a lot of threats from the FGC, which is why, and indeed one serious threat from CS, which is why if people remember at the major, I was literally walking around with a bodyguard the entire time. That, you know, that was several people had said they were going to turn up in Boston and kill me. So I spoke to the head of security, and they said, you probably shouldn't go to this event, but we can't tell you not to, and we also think it's pretty whack that you can't attend. But I had to file a police report for one of the threats. You know, there's still an open case on that, and I was like, it's just not worth it. But then also during that time, several of the talent had said to me, because I'd said, well, why don't I not come to the event and we meet up privately? You're in town. And they just said, it's too hot right now. Like, if we're seen with you, we're going to get a load of shit as well. And that's the other thing the FGC have done. When they realized it wasn't going to necessarily work with Turner, they started attacking the people who've got to make their bread and butter in the FGC for being friends with me. Mark Julio has worked one event with me, and people were just bombarding him on Twitter with abuse for saying Richard Lewis is a good guy and did a good job. Guys like Tasty Steve, Sajam, I've worked with multiple times. Sajam gets a ton of shit going, why is he silent about Richard Lewis? Like, because he acknowledges I'm good at the job and actually thinks I'm a good human being, and he's someone who's met me in person and worked with me on multiple events. But it got to the stage where these guys like didn't even want to be seen with me because of the shit they'd get. So I was like, at this point, you know, it's like a judo move. The FGC is going after me because they are adamantly convinced that they can take away my job, take away my visa, ruin my life for things that they think I did or said. So the ultimate judo move is, all right, I just quit. I'm not doing the job anymore. Now what have you got? And the reality is they're going to be sick when I announce my next gig. It's going to make them sick to the pit of their stomach, and they will not be able to have me fired. They simply will not. In my next gig, I own part of the company. Good luck with that. I have percentage points. I'll be going nowhere. So you'll just have to suck it up and cry, knowing that I get to walk away from jobs that these sad, pathetic bedroom, basement-dwelling motherfuckers would kill to have. I get to walk away from being on television into something else awesome. And these kids will never have that. So fuck y'all. I can say it now. So that's why I'm out. And it's like, you know, I love E-League. We've not ruled out coming back for the next CS season. They know I'll always do right by them because they did right by me. But at the end of the day, the fucking people in the FGC who have tried to make my life miserable for 2 fucking years, suck my fucking dick, you lose.
There you go. You lost.
I'm amazed that in this scene, like, here's the thing. Again, I don't know that much about the scene, but the vibe I always got when people used to tell me about it, maybe this is years ago, was that it was supposed to be the most down-to-earth scene, and it was like the old-school gamer vibe and stuff. So it actually blows my mind that they're pulling like mad social justice warrior scams and tricks, you know.
Yeah, but it's like, again, if they believe, if there was any evidence to back up that I was a legitimate threat to that, like if I did represent a threat to diversity, if I had represented something that was racist, if I had ever been embroiled in a racist scandal, if I'd ever been caught using a racial epithet, I would totally stand by it. I would like be like, you know what? Yeah, maybe these people shouldn't be part of your scene, right? I dig it. But the reality is, they're attacking me over and have done consistently for fictitious fucking reasons, and that's the madness. That's what makes it intolerable to me. So it's like I say, I just had to fucking bail on it because it's not fair on E-League neither. By the way, how do you think it makes E-League feel? Like there they are creating this content for the FGC. This is another point. The FGC seem to think they are like a top tier esport in terms of.
By the way, that's that is a pattern I have seen in every esport that is not the biggest ones. So Dota 2, Overwatch when I came into it. What happens is the creepiest people, the ones that are the most annoyed by outsiders, the way they always characterize it is, look at him trying to get famous off our game. As though like people actually, no joke, Richard, think that like I would like kill to be part of the Overwatch scene. It's like, you do know, you're not even going to give me any hits on this fucking video I do. Like, what are you talking about? They always think that, don't they? They always think their shit's the next big thing and that you're like jumping on their fucking bandwagon.
So I had that going on. Like, it is just fucking insane. Like, basically, the intimation was always that I was just here to make money from the FGC. It's like, guys, it's not worth my time. You know, like, we're all high-fiving because you got 25,000 viewers. I just hosted an event with 1.3 million people watching, the largest ever single Twitch channel. You think I want to leave that behind to do more of your shit and get called a Nazi every day?
That's the other thing. The one area I don't blame plebs in is there isn't good info out there on, like, how much money people make for online stuff. So I know everyone who isn't in the industry, like, no joke, whoever you are right now, unless you've really studied this stuff and got some inside friends, whatever profits you think a team makes, a site makes, a league makes, you're off by 10. A factor of 10. Like, you literally think that I'll make a video, it's like $1,000 because if it's got 100,000 views. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah.
It's not as big as you think, guys, unfortunately.
It's just beyond a joke. So anyway, like I said, I love E-League. It's a great experience. I never thought I'd get from a fucking council estate in a small mining town to American national television. Never dreamed about that in my wildest dreams. I got to do it for over 2 years. I'm super happy about it. That will always be something I achieved, and I got to help be part of bringing Counter-Strike to the mainstream. And this time we didn't compromise. We didn't do CGS-style bullshit, change the rules, don't call it a bomb. We got to talk about the game the way it should be talked about, and we did it for a new audience. And that'll always be something that'll be dear to my heart. But I got to get on to the next thing for the good of my own health, like just mental health. Like, it's just not worth constantly battling against a horde of people who believe you're the worst thing on earth because they wanted somebody else to sit in a chair and talk about their video game. It just ain't worth it,
Plus, you did have to get some of them percentage points in that long paper.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, for real making paper. So whatever. Anyway, let's start talking about Counter-Strike. Right. So first up, when we did the last episode, Taco was poised to be leaving. It looked like he was going to Liquid. He'd done that shit cryptic tweet with the asterisks where the last words were just Team Liquid, basically. And it was a fucking unbelievably out in the open secret. Like Doublelift doing the classic leaks. I'll just take a photo of Taco. What could possibly go wrong? So it was already common knowledge, I thought. But this is where it gets interesting for me. So obviously now that it's official, we can definitely talk about it. But he replaced Steel, which was always going to be the likely choice. And statements came out saying that actually Steel was unhappy with his own level of performance and wasn't enjoying his time in the team because he felt he wasn't playing very well. And he had actually decided to step down anyway. And that's what prompted them looking at Taco. And it was all Steel's decision. And just to quote their coach Zeus, who obviously we all know and love, big fan of him. Said to everyone suggesting we just flat out replace Taco with Steele. You don't mess with a winning team, which is why this caught us off guard. Steele asked to step down, and I felt Taco's availability was the deciding factor to make him comfortable with his decision. And this was put out by Steele himself. Steele did a statement as well where he just said, listen, I'm not happy with how I've been playing, so I'm going to bounce. Now, I know you tweeted about this immediately. Classic Thorin tweet. Like, I'm going to fucking bridge to sell you me, mate. Like, classic shit. So I'm guessing you don't buy the official storyline.
Here's the thing. In this one instance, I think it might be different than I thought it was. I will say, if you notice, I bundled them all up. So I was like, Phelps leaves SK, but he chose to leave. Taco leaves this team. But of course, he chose to leave SK. Remember, he chose to step down from SK.
Yeah.
Steele leaves Liquid again, chose to leave, of course. Notice in these scenarios, each person has no destination, no possible team that can be as good as the one they're leaving. Nobody wants them. They're actually the most obvious person to kick. And on top of it, they're all playing shit relative to what is expected of them in the team. So again, it's like that I told you with that thing about Astralis. Oh, you won't believe what's bloody happened at the office. What is it? Two-Face. I mean, Gabriel Toledo. You won't believe it. You know that guy I was having a lot of trouble with? I couldn't sort of find a place for him in the team. He's only gone and bloody quit, hasn't he? Oh, fucking hell, what are you going to do now? That's easy. You needed him in the team. Even worse. That player that's better than him that I wanted to get in the team, he's available. He says he'll sign, actually. Oh, well, you know, every cloud has a silver lining. Fuck 100% of the way off. Listen, you can tell the public anything you want. They'll believe a lot of it. But don't serve me horse shit and tell me it's chocolate. It isn't, is it? So here's the thing. In this case, I think there might be some nuance. Like, what I love is that maybe people have started doing this, Rich. I'm going to be narcissistic and say people have started doing this because of the way I break down these sorts of statements. Because I always go in on you if you put bullshit, basically. I actually believe Zeus's phrasing. His phrasing is, Steele wanted to step down. Now, it doesn't end the sentence there. If Steele wanted to step down, and then it just so happened they got Taco, sorry, that just beggars belief, mate. Don't believe it. Now, if Steele wanted to step down, who was playing badly, by the way, and he finds out Taco's available, Taco would like to come to Cloud9 or Team Liquid, essentially, it's like everyone wins on this. I'm playing bad. It's not working for me. I'm sort of the surplus to requirements odd man out. And you've got a replacement who could probably do my job better. Okay, maybe I could buy that to some degree. I would still also go ahead and say one of the areas I've noticed that people will call bullshit, like say, you're lying with your opinion. I am in this team and know this. As I've said before with some of the past people, is, okay, that might be what happened in Zeus's perspective. I want to know what happened with Steve Arneset, the owner of Team Liquid. I want to know what Taco's conversations were. Did Taco talk to Team Liquid before Steele said this thing to Zeus? Did Steele say the thing and then they found out Taco was available afterwards? Like, the timeline could be all over the place, but whatever. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. In the end, Team Liquid's getting rid of a player who was basically, despite what Zeus says, like, don't mess with a winning lineup. I agree with that, by the way. Like, I would probably have given it a little bit longer, but this is like a rare instance of where there's no real downside to the move, seemingly. Like, he really is just a better replacement for what they wanted Steele to do, and Steele wasn't capable of doing. And I could also believe, by the way, if you Steele, that this actually is a rare scenario, unlike Taco and Phelps in SK, where that is their best case scenario. I could believe if you're Steele, a lone Brazilian in an NA team, totally different culture, totally different mindset, you thought to yourself, oh, it's cool, I still get to live in, America, play in a team, but you find out, guess what, I'm not with all my Brazilian mates, so they don't have the same culture as me. Even worse, now they've recruited NAF, I'm literally just surplus to requirements. Everyone else in the team's like a fucking mad fragger, and they're all doing super well. And every time we have good results, it's not really me doing it. I could actually see how that would drag on you. And also, if you think about current things going on, Richard, I wonder if there's a spot on that like NTC team available.
Yeah.
Well, this team, Henny and Lucas won. There's a lot of opportunities opening up for if you're someone like Steele who gets along with everyone.
Yeah, well, this is interesting, though. I mean, I thought about the NTC situation, and that's where I was going to go with this. I cannot fucking imagine Steele. Like, how do you reconcile that beef? Like, I remember interviewing him when I was at E-League, and Steele saying that, me and Bolts, we want to be all about the game. We have a very different philosophy on how to approach being a pro, and that is that they want to be on all the time in terms of their professional outlook. Whereas what they say about Henny and Lucas is, that they want to win, but they also want to have fun doing it. They do want to have a bit of glitz and glamour in the nighttime. They do want to fucking party, and they want to win as much as they can without having to compromise leading a fun lifestyle outside of the game. Which equally you can say honestly is an admirable trait. We all love George Best, right? Like all Georgie 2 livers.
Hopefully
we all love
the same way for them.
No, hopefully not. But I mean, a Garincha, to keep it Brazilian, guy fucking had kids everywhere, drank himself to death, and died.
Christmas.
Yeah, and died in the fucking slums that he came from. Never compromised who he was in life, and an amazing footballer to boot. One of the great all-time talents. So in sports, there is always analogies of people who don't want to make professionalism the number one goal, and instead want to have a quality of life as if and their talent just enables them to do it, and they're very rare. And I think Henny and Lucas are fantastic players, fantastic talent. They've obviously got the fraternal bond, but and they will always find people who want to play with them because of their talent. But the way Steele made it sound is that being in that team and having that schism was unbearable for him. So the idea that he can somehow, well, I'm out of liquid now, I'll call up my old boys, Henny and Lucas, especially given Bolts and Steele have suffered fucking terribly, basically at their hands.
Henny and Lucas aren't in the NTC one, remember? They left.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So it's one or the other. Either it's NTC with KNG, which, by the way, it's a similar scenario what you're describing, or it's the Henny and Lucas one. That's what I'm assuming, because potentially now there's going to be 3 teams,
Well, that's the thing. So, you can either go to NTC with KNG, which, again, is the similar problem, or...
It's pick your poison, put it out there.
yeah, right? So I don't know. I mean, the reality is Steele's English is obviously good enough that he could play in a North American team. Maybe he wants to swerve the fucking 2 Brazilian options entirely. What do you think he's going to do, and where do you think he's going to end up next?
I suspect he's just going back to a Brazilian team, especially because, unfortunately, his play in Liquid didn't really inspire, I think, other teams to want to pick him up. Despite what people say on Twitter, so don't link me some shit, I've never heard anyone privately, when he was in Liquid, going you know what, he's playing fucking great in that team as well. They would say it about everyone else. You're oh, fucking Nitro, what a revelation, he's back to Orpin, Naf, so sick, Elysian Twist. Never heard a peep about Steele ever. Then you've got to add on, I know what you mean, from the outside, it's mad, the idea that you could have all those problems in Immortals with either of these sets of guys, by the way, in their own way they cause problems, and then go back. But all I'll tell you is this. I remember a team many years ago, so I can mask the identity of the person, who the team kicked a player because, and we're not talking about SK, that's why I said many years ago, they kicked a player even when they were one of the best teams in the world because he fucked the girlfriend of one of the other players in the team. He then went off, played in a different team, and when he was playing well enough and the team wanted him back so they could get back to their glory, he came back and they welcomed him back. And they all pretended nothing had ever happened and they were all happy families again. Because at the end of the day, it's all you have to think of is this. Yeah, if I think from a bigger perspective of my whole career, I would think the way you're describing. But if I think the way Steele does, his stock is at the bottom at the moment and he's just spent his time in Liquid. Maybe he's feeling like these non-Brazilian teams aren't working for me. Oh, what's that? They've got Phelps now. Hey, maybe that could work. Or maybe if it's just KNG on his own, the rest of us could keep him. I don't know what way he's going to go with it, but you know what I mean? People can find themselves when they're in a bad spot to rationalize themselves back in any scenario. That's why, for example, I don't know why people are so shocked that, Existence and Shocks might play together again. The French scene's the best example. These guys can hate each other. But a year or so later, enough time goes past, enough problems happen. Eventually, you make the moves that make sense for you in the game. I feel like eventually, I think the petty personal stuff goes aside once you're in a bad enough scenario.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I guess we got to wait and see. Like I said, I think Steele's options are open pretty wide, and maybe it is a case that Yeah, well, sure. I mean, it's not like he gave a great account of himself over at Liquid, but I don't know. I think there's plenty of North American teams he could slide into. Not necessarily great ones.
Go to NRG or something. I'm sure you could.
Yeah. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens there. Now, there was another piece of news I wanted to just talk about with you, and I'm quickly trying to find a tweet that relates to it. But Big Now, you remember on the podcast we talked about Big and how
that's a name I've heard a long time.
I know, yeah, Obi-Wan. Big, basically, they have been sort of going through the motions of trying to bed in a new player, and they went with a guy called Looker, who was a younger player. They brought him into the roster because, obviously, as I said, I never realized this, but Big does stand for, Berlin International Gaming. I didn't realize it was an acronym. And they want to keep it German. They want to have a German, flavor to the team, which makes total sense. But they wanted to try out this young player called Looker, and basically it didn't work out, and Looker left the team. And Legia is going to come back in and stand in for the umpteenth time because the God B Legia bromance is like nothing I've ever seen in Counter-Strike. And they Legia also released the statement. I love that. Yeah, I love that. That I'm the guy who's coming in for the guy, and I'm the guy who was replaced by the guy. I also get to write the fucking epitaph, And he said, after our roster change in early February, we focused on integrating Looker into our game. Despite the fact he joined the team with just 3,000 hours of play time and lack of experience, Looker did a great job in general and proved himself during WESG in China, especially while playing against SK, Wololos, and Team Russia. However, we came to the conclusion that we needed a different kind of AWPer, particularly with regards to the playing style. It was a team decision. We really tried to make it work, but we weren't 100% satisfied with the results at the end. Now we are looking into other options. In the meantime, I will join the starting roster for the upcoming MDL playoffs as a stand-in and take over the AWP position with Tabson. So Legia now AWPing. Awesome. So anyway, the reason I wanted to bring this up, and is that Looker actually put out a twit longer. And it was with the old classic post-cut twit longer.
Here we go. Is there some juice in this?
Yeah. Let me see if I can. I'm hoping it's still up. Yeah, this is the one. Oh, you got it. Yeah, I got it too. I think. Is this the one where? Let me just. Yeah, there it is. So. And this is going to segue into a nice philosophical discussion about the nature of competition, Duncan. So it's right up your fucking alley. But anyway, he put this twit longer out, and he said, "I'm leaving Big. Bye. Sorry about that." And he said, "I didn't enjoy playing in this team anymore because after about 2 weeks, I'd already started to get unhappy and unconfident. The criticism in-game often sounded inappropriate to me and really destroyed a lot of my confidence. Therefore, it was hard for me to have fun during and after practices. I also couldn't feel the team spirit, which is a very important factor to me because it felt like I was on a lower level than the others and that they looked down on me. A few weeks later, I noticed I was not playing to win anymore. Instead, I was playing to not get criticized. I think it was not a fair way to treat a newcomer like that. But the moment when I was 100% sure to leave was when we played versus SK Gaming. There was a situation when an enemy was behind the smoke, and I offered to flash through it, but held the flash for a second too long in my hand, so I died. My death was traded immediately, and we won the round shortly after that. I wanted to fist bump and say, "Good job, guys," but instead someone screamed loudly right in my face. At this point, I realized that...
Also, why is he saying someone? Just name who it is. It wasn't just some random person out the crowd, was it?
Right. At this point, I realized that Big is not the right team for me. After WSG, I offered to still play and train, but decided against it.
So do you like having people screaming your face on LAN? Maybe Big's the team for you.
No, but here's the thing, right?
Keep it German. 100% German.
This is when fire flash noob. Right? This is why I want to get into a philosophical debate with you. Because first of all, I know God B teams, right? Because I've been around God B. I've watched him train. I've watched him develop talent. I've known God B for fucking years. And let me tell you, yes, if you make a mistake in game, once the round is over, it's not like he makes a mental note of it and tells you once the game is over. He wants mistakes to be corrected on the fly and everybody to understand why it's important and why it's a mistake.
So
now,
I've
never seen him scream. I've never seen God B scream at anyone. That's why I don't think it's necessarily him. But the hallmark of a God B team is if you fuck up, you get told why you made a fuck up, right? And you are told, do not fuck up like that again, because how else would you improve? And I read this and I thought, this is so typical of a younger player. And this is why a lot of younger players struggle to bed in with older pros. Now, God be, if you remember, he's had a history of attempting to develop talent. Hasn't always worked out. Like, for example, Silent and Just9, or Justin, or whatever the fuck, who streams PUBG now. Both of them were in NRG at one point, and I remember it. He was always trying to get them up to the level of being able to hang at a professional level. And if you think about, how he worked with Tabson, there's proof of concept there. But you've got to have a pretty robust personality. Like, your ego has to get checked at the fucking door, and you have to understand that just because you won a round, it doesn't mean you didn't make a fucking mistake. And I fucking hate that. I hate when people say, oh, look, calm down, we won the round anyway. You still fucked up, you moron. We won a round because someone bailed you the fuck out. That's how it is. So when I read this and read how he's like, oh, and I felt like I was on a lower tier to the rest of the team. Yeah, I've just joined. You are a junior player. You know how it works at a sport team? I've seen contracted junior players polishing the fucking football boots of pro-level players with a toothbrush, and it's just part of your initiation as you go through the ranks. It's how you get to connect and forge a bond with the pro and get to be around them and get to learn more shit. Like, you're not just going to get the red carpet out like, hey, it's great of you to join as a young junior player who's only got 3,000 hours, and we're going to have to sink a bunch of time in the vague fucking hope that it all sticks and you get up to the level you need to be at. It's a fucking job at the end of the day. Now, sure, I'm not saying that, like, shouting at everyone all of the time and being a drill sergeant is the right way to carry yourself, and you have got to know that some people will not respond to the stick. It's got to be all about the carrot. But at the end of the day, if you make a mistake in game and someone tells you, don't fucking do that again, don't fuck up, suck it the fuck up, buttercup. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? What do you think?
I definitely think, like, a point that actually a lot of people don't understand. This is actually one of the reasons, Richard, as to why Korean League of Legends and Korean esports in general is so successful at producing new top players. Like, why in any game they get into, they just produce more top players than anyone else. And part of it is that the reason why fantastic young talents, so think of their equivalent of like Simple, Nico, Kenny S, people who come along and, from like day one of being 15, they could basically frag anyone in the world. They're that good, But the difference is in the West, they really might just jump right into a team and be able to start doing mad shit like Simple was, where it's like, you win the round, but then you're just talking mad shit to like legends like Markle, like, hey, you fucked up and did that wrong just because he can't frag the way you can. That doesn't exist in Korea. Like, first of all, if you do that, you are just literally out. You will just be out on your ass. And because you haven't had a career yet, it's not, you wouldn't even think of doing it. There's only a couple of times they've ever had to literally just boot someone. Then what usually happens is, even if you have that insane talent level, they don't judge you on talent. In fact, in Korea, the main thing they go on is, what would you call it?
Senior.
Heritage or something. Yeah, like
heritage,
you were there longer
pedigree.
Or whatever. Pedigree, there you go. Like you were there longer. You've built your way up through this organization, this team. You've earned your spot. So when you come into a team, I remember there was a famous example in League of Legends where in season 2, so 2012, the player Shy joined what at the time was the best Korean team. It was a Zubu Frost, and all the rest of the players in this team, right, were already like almost legendary stars, like some of the best players in the world. But this guy as a rookie was unreal. He already was like absolutely amazing. And I remember I read all these interviews, and in every interview he would literally be talking about like, I hope they let me stay in this team, and I'm going to work really hard. And I kept thinking, like, what the fuck's he talking about? Like, he's the best player in the league already. Like, you don't have to worry about that, mate. But he did, because when he joined that team, it doesn't matter how good he is in the game, he is below everyone else. And he works his way up by gaining their respect, by getting a spot. And then, if he's earned the same status, then his talent might make him the star player and become popular, So the problem is, in a weird way, I think by missing that step in the West, and you'll notice we haven't missed it in like a malicious way. People haven't set it up to be this way, but we have gone too crazy on certain things, like when a Simple comes along, we do sort of tell someone like that, you're the star player, you should have everything catered to you. You should get the biggest salary. You're the reason this team's winning. Whereas, we don't necessarily put enough emphasis on veterans, veteran leadership. And so that is one of the problems I do see in Western esports in general. And this is an area of where, I do think that's probably like a generation gap, where in 1.6, part of the reason why that wouldn't happen as much, hopefully, is because you had way less teams and you obviously had to stay inside your region. So, for example, if we make God Bees big into the equivalent of what it would have been in 1.6, so mouse sports, you can only really play for like mouse sports and alternate attacks. That's about it, really. You're not really going to go to international lands if you don't play for those. So if you get a chance, you will put up with anything. You will go to the ends of the earth because this is your shot. In this world, he can go, not the team for me, not my tempo. I'm going to go to another team, try it again. So I do kind of feel like they are a bit soft in that sense, the modern generation. I mean, that is actually fully enough to tie it all back into the original shit. That's where all this stuff about people getting literally like emotionally hurt over tweets. That is where it all comes from, like people can't handle trash talk or anyone sort of challenging them. And I agree with you. There are certain players you definitely shouldn't do it with. There's some players who are very quiet, perhaps, where you'd probably ruin him if you do that. And I don't know this guy, so I can't know if he is. But there are also definitely some players where you'll only get him into shape if you sort of at least challenge him. I'd say that. You got to sometimes sort of tell him like you're not on the level you need to be right now. And I can't just be like cool with that. Because if I'm like that, A, you'll never be a top player, and B, I'll have to kick you anyway in a month. So which do you want? Do you want me to give you a shot at being a player in a year on this team, or do you want me to kick you in a month but give you a pat on the back beforehand? Because actually, think of some of the stories we're talking about at the top here with stealing Team Liquid and these sorts of scenarios. I hate those stories when a top team recruits a player and then they're like, "Oh, he's such a great guy." 1 week later, sorry to let him go. It's a real shame. You think, what the fuck happened in a week? You were his best mate a minute ago. You never ever criticised him. So, in a way, I kind of like the honest approach, even if it's a bit blunt.
Yeah, and listen, I'll say this. Hopefully, Luca checks this out and fucking because all the players watch this. So I'll give him a bit of life advice. The worst thing he could have possibly done, by the way, was put that
this fucking
Twit out.
Longer.
Yeah. I mean, because now what he's saying is, I do not respond well. I mean, this is how a coach or a player or an in-game leader is going to read this. I do not respond well to criticism, and I need to be in a team where camaraderie is valued above all. Well, all of a sudden, if you're talking about camaraderie being valued above all, we're back to the Brazilians, aren't we? We're back to Henny and Lucas and the party squad. So
if you want to do this, you better be simple. You better be so skilled that someone has to take a chance on you. Because as you're saying, this is a black mark. So unless you're outrageously good, if it's between you and another guy and they're both questionable, they're going to go with the other guy, aren't they? Because they don't know that he's going to fold.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. It's like, hopefully he will get another chance at this. But basically, like, reading between the lines, what it says to me is he doesn't respond well to a certain type of criticism, that he wants to be friends with everybody on the team first and foremost, and that maybe he's never going to have that sort of, suck it up mentality that you need. Because it wouldn't have been like that forever, would it? Like, if you just got your head down and took the shit and made the improvements, maybe in 3 months, all of a sudden, no one's screaming in your face because there's nothing to scream about, and suddenly you've elevated your own level. Now, he's obviously a very good player. I'll end on a positive note, because I watched WESG and he did have some good fucking games. But again, I think unfortunately you're not going to get like, when you're an entry-level teenage player learning the trade, they're not going to throw a bunch of sports psychologists at you. They're not going to give you kid gloves. You need to hit the ground running and learn how to fucking adapt. And having a thick skin and being resilient is the best trait you could possibly have if you want to break into a team. And this has been the scourge of NA, where you get these younger players where they cannot take criticism from the old guard because they're so fucking like, well, no, I'm good. I'm better than you. Look, I can get more kills than you. Yep. Yeah, but it's attention to fucking detail that matters. And this is why, just to lead on to still talk about Big, they were then linked with Smooya as a potential replacement, which looks to not be happening now because the Epsilon buyout was
that's
40K.
A fucking shame. I was waiting for him to get screamed in his face.
Yeah, but here's the thing as well. Just the irony of Smooya joining a German team. I'll let people piece that one together.
To be fair, Rich, your theory hasn't worked out on that one. The worst thing you could have done is put out this twit longer just talking shit on all your ex-teammates. Now, welcome, Smooya.
Yeah. Yeah, king of the Twitlonger. Yeah, like, ratting out every trade secret he gets his hands on for attention. Yeah, we're brilliant. But like again, I will say this: like Smoothie is obviously a talented player. But again, I think, but I think he would be a fucking nightmare to even try and give input to based on what I've seen behaviorally from him. So I think the fact that the buyout was 40K, which feels a little bit egregious for a UK player, like, you know, £40 maybe. But yeah, I think Big might
especially
have dodged
not a tactical team like this that wants, you know, a certain mental aspect. Just here's the thing: forget the personality. It's just not a good fit even for probably his playing style. He needs to be on like a team where he can just frag out and do what the fuck he wants.
Well, there you go. So DK in the chat. Obviously, shit happens live. DK, the reporter, says it's a lie. Smooya is definitely joining Big. They're just trying to downplay my report. So I'll tell you what, if he does join, I've seen big personalities go to Big before and try and like deal with the fucking intense knowledge bombs that God B's going to drop on you, that people in the team are going to drop on you, the weight of expectation that's on you. I don't know if Smooya is going to have a good time there. So if DK's right, and I got no reason to doubt DK.
Excuse me a second, God B. Oh, yeah, it stands for Berlin International Game. We're keeping it German. Now, welcome a little rat from the UK. What are you doing? It doesn't even make sense. You've ruined the whole fucking gimmick. Right, we're gonna do it German style. Scream Schnell in his face. He's not liking that, right? Get him, that fucking guy from FPL.
Classic Schnell.
Just giving it up already, haven't they?
So there you go. So we'll probably talk about that when that gets announced. Let's talk about what happened over at Vega Squadron as well. I think this is like an interesting thing, and I made a tweet about this. But just for those who didn't see the story, I'll give it to you in English, Sam, so you don't have to bring up a bunch of whatever it's called, Cyrillic or whatever the fuck. Yeah, so basically Vega Squadron, which was famously, everybody used this because it was the one talking point you could really bring up about Vega Squadron apart from the odd upset game. They were the longest standing roster that had been together in CSGO.
Never mind the part where, like, the first 2 years, no one knew who the fuck they were when they had that roster. Ignore that part, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we were essentially an amateur team back then.
Like, that is the most meaningless record ever, isn't it?
But still, a record nonetheless, my friend. A record nonetheless. And not anymore. Yeah, they bounced. It's broke up. And basically, we're not quite sure why this is the case, but it's going to be Kashanda and Mir who have been moved to the reserves. And the managers put a statement out saying our team has always stood as a unit and never dropped the ideas from when the team was founded, you know, back in those good old amateur days. Players went through many challenges and grew as professionals together. Eventually, players started experiencing problems, and we put double the effort in to solve them. But guys still became distant, and their points of view changed. We, as management, tried to unite them, but it wasn't of any help. It was a tough decision, and we tried to avoid it by all means. Today, 2 of our players are becoming reserve and are open for transfer. The organization is thankful to the players for the time they spent with us and all the victories we achieved together. So again, this is Kashanda and Mir. Now, I'm just going to start right off the bat. The tweet I put out when I saw this news story was, I can name you 2 fucking teams off the top of my head before we even explore English-speaking options that would benefit from either one of those players going to them. Now, in my mind, the obvious one was Navi. I don't know if you
That would be my assumption as soon as I saw this news.
And also, I would probably say, you know, I know they've only just got him, but, you know, Gambit could probably benefit from one of these guys. Mir, I think, would definitely be a good fit over there. That was the other team I was thinking about. We'll talk about Gambit in their endless juggling of in-game leadership roles, which is really fucking the team over at the moment. But basically, I think Kashanda, I mean, obviously a good player as well. But Mir was always the player that really stood out for me.
Yes.
I thought he just had a wonderful, like, cultured approach. His timing on pushes and stuff was just impeccable. Like, always really good map awareness. Like, a joy to watch him play. Had a lot of fun at the last major watching him. So Mir to me is a hot fucking property. And certainly, I've said it. If the fucking bell has not tolled for Edward, like in Navi, like, I don't know, motherfucker must be invincible. Like, because it's not even that his stats are bad. It's that all his decision making is bad. And every time, you know, he might get a kill and then you're like, okay, that's going to pad the stats. But then he'll do a needless peek and die. I've never seen a player die so much with all his utility, like without using it. It must be a record. I wish we could get that statistic, like deaths without a single piece of utility used. I bet Edward would be right up there. And he just makes weird pushes through smoke. And it's like, listen, Simple can ball out of control because he's the best player in the fucking world. Edward, you maybe were. There was a debate to be had about you were the best. It was fucking 8 years ago, mate. So stop. Know your fucking role. Stay in your lane. Basically be the primer for the better players on your team. And it's like that message never got relayed to his fucking brain. So the potential to have Mir in place of Edward in Navi, that is exciting to me. That could be what needs to happen to actually fix Navi. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I will say, when I first saw this news, because obviously the news is basically Vega Squadron benches their best player and another player. Already you're just like, child, please. Because I'm so done with this whack pattern of like, a team who is carried by one player is benching that player. Well, you're not, are you? You just, what you mean is you're not going to waste any more time investing in having him in the game because he's going to a better team. Therefore, why waste your time having him play? Why not get started on his replacement? That's what you really mean. But fair play, this is one of the only cases where they actually also do say in the statement, we didn't want to do it, and they are both reserves, but also open for transfer. So at least they're actually somewhat transparent that, yeah, obviously this wasn't the team benching these players. This was these two players saying, I already have a team I'm going to, or I'm in the process of negotiating with multiple teams, and I'm sorry, but I'd like to leave. And so they're like, okay, we will just put out the statement saying this, and who knows, maybe even pump up the value by making it public. I don't know what the kind of power play. With that said, for Vega Squadron, it's terrible. I mean, I don't know how they ever come back from this. I actually would go ahead and say probably never going to hear from them again. They're probably just going to be a team in the minor who maybe goes and loses in the first part of the major. Okay. In terms of these players, yeah, you're absolutely right. Mir was the clear catch here. I didn't think a lot of the others were that good, especially because the team itself wasn't exactly insane.
I'm a big fan of Chopper. I think Chopper is.
He's all right, yeah. He's had some good games. But Mir was the clear prize there. The question obviously was in the past, I will say a lot of this in the past made sense because in the past we were still thinking of traditional team roles. So the problem with Mir is you probably do want him to be your star player. So then you're thinking, am I really going to kick out Hobbit and Adren? No, I'm not. Am I going to kick out Simpler Flip? Obviously I'm not. But in the modern day, and especially after Navi's seen their current approaches with Seized and Zeus just fail completely on their arse, like literally, I know for everyone about to go, what do you mean? They almost won a tournament. With the best player in the world basically playing the best tournament ever played, they didn't win a tournament. As I said, that's actually a black mark against Navi, not a positive for them as a team outside of Simple. It's actually terrible. So I actually think it would even make logical sense. Just go with an all-fragging lineup. Just do whatever you can to take some of the load off Simple's shoulders, knowing that he'll still probably carry the game anyway. So I even agree, whoever you kick, whether it is, I mean, the obvious choice is Edward. I'm not sure who else you kick beyond that because you've just got Electronic. That's the question. If they're going to get both players, remember, they don't have to both go to the same place. Maybe one of them goes to Gambit, one of them goes to Navi. But I agree. I think it's an open and shut thing. If I'm Navi, I'm got to try for one of these players. I've got to do something. Current team doesn't work. And then if I'm one of their players, obviously Navi's who you want to join. What people never understand is, this is why it's real hard to analyze like moves, is, okay, at the moment, Navi is the best team in that region. But okay, Let's think about, even 8 months ago. Obviously, Gambit was the best team in that region. I'm still going to Navi if I get the offer over Gambit. They've got way more money. They've got a way better chance in the future of being a massive org. And I do get to play with Simple. So no matter what, Navi's the one you want to join if you have the choice. So really, I think it's on Navi if they want to do it.
Yeah, and we already know as well. I mean, like, they're
and do you accept my new cryptocurrency? Because I'll buy him for 10 million.
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, like, it's really weird. Like I say, Navi don't strike me as an organization that really likes to spend money, even though they've clearly fucking got money. We talked about this a little bit last time on the podcast. I'm not going to rehash the material, but obviously, as I've said, in terms of amount invested from their own money to dividends reaped.
I'm not exaggerating, Rich. I actually think back through. Remember, they've only existed since 2010.
Yeah,
I'm thinking back. I don't think they have ever in the history of Counter-Strike, aside from Simple, made a high-profile signing. I can't think of anyone who was like, one of the best in the world, massive guy, won loads of, and then he came into Navi. It's the other way. What happens is they have legends, and some of them play for Navi and become legends in Navi, then leave. They don't do the big signings, So actually, as an org, it's amazing the success they've had, considering they've done fuck all big signings.
Yeah, and I suppose, Electronic was, the first one, but we all know how that got fucking dragged out. And, it was a 6-figure buyout in the end. But it was like pulling fucking teeth. It should have literally been right. We want
after the major, it should have been instantly there.
Yeah, it was literally like, right, Simple wants Electronic. Simple has just signed a 2-year contract on the proviso we bring in a player. Simple rates Electronic and wants to play with him. Flipside will happily sell him for the right amount of money. Here is the checkbook. Let's get this done. But instead, like with everything Navi, it was a long, drawn-out, protracted saga. People using journalists to plant bullshit out in this, denying they were interested, denying the buyout had been agreed. It's just always a fucking travesty with Navi. It's like, if you want to be an elite level organization, handle your fucking business like you're an elite level organization. Like, say what you want about some of the fucking North American cartel. At least they understand how to fucking just get a signing done. You think about Team Liquid. Like, obviously, Team Liquid have given short shrift to journalists in the past and told lies and done whatever they had to do. But when it comes to just getting a player from point A to point B, how much is he? Here's the money. Thanks very much for playing. Here's a slick team announcement. It's like, how the fuck can you not get that done by now, Navi, after all these years of experience you've had? It's just embarrassing at this point, frankly, that everything has to be a fucking saga. So, talking about sagas, there's the ongoing saga of Gambit, which will sort of link tangentially to the whole idea of maybe they could get Mir Kashanda as well, because obviously they have had several problems now in terms of performance. Obviously they're underperforming, but not just that, they keep swapping around fucking the in-game leadership role, and it's like they don't have anybody who in my mind is a clear in-game leader. I'll tell you this from what I know experience wise, it's Adrian that's the brain in that team. Whether he is called the in-game leader or not, it will always come back to him. And you will notice his level of performance will fluctuate up and down, predicated on how much load he has to bear in terms of overall tactical direction, team management, all of that bullshit. And this is why when they did have in-game leaders in the team, Zeus, Adrian's performance miraculously shot up. So he was one of the best players in 2017. And now he's still playing very well, still one of the best players on this roster. But they keep swapping this in-game leader around. And it's like they tried to bring fucking Seized in. Why you would ever... First of all, why you would want Seized as a player right now when he is bust up? It's like trying to sell a fucking old shit car, like some fucking shitty Ford Buick from fucking back in the day, and be like, yeah, it's got fucking 1 million miles on it, but it's a good runner, one careful owner. That's fucking Seized, pretty much. One careful owner summarizes his entire career. Yeah, one careful owner, but he can't fucking play for shit right now. So what started his downfall was being in-game leader. He went from being a solid star player, like I said, the cut price Crims, as I used to call him, to be trying to be an in-game leader, which he's clearly not cut out for. Gambit tried to have him do that. That is a disaster. He doesn't have the smarts or the personality to do it. So you think, well, okay, it doesn't work out with Seized. Go back to Adrian. Now they're fucking getting Hobbit, the little fucking, the little kid, the rookie of the year.
Is that the way around they did it? Because it was Hobbit before. I think you got it the wrong way around.
Yeah,
it was
sorry,
Hobbit 2
wrong way around. Yeah, sorry, my bad. As I said, I didn't have time to prepare for this show. I've literally just come straight off the fucking strip. So, if everything I say is wrong, we'll just edit it in post. So I looked like I knew what the fuck I was talking about. All right. So anyway, so they tried to do it with Hobbit. So that's stupid. You can't have your rookie star player coming in and being an in-game leader. Like, just because you're posting big numbers don't make you cut out to do it. And now they've gone back to Seized. See previous point. Seized is a garbage in-game leader and a garbage player right now. So what I'm thinking is, Maybe you cut Seized, who honestly offers nothing and was just taken based on his reputation and the fact that he was replacing, fuck is his name?
Fitch,
that was it. Yeah, who had really fallen off.
You'll never need to know that name again, Rich.
Yeah, I'll remove that one. That's deleted. And, get rid of Seized, bench him or whatever, treat him like the bust-out fucking asset he is, and go get Mir. Go get fucking Mir. And now, all of a sudden, Adrian back to in-game leader. I like Gambit again if that happens. I think they're a good fucking team if that happens, right?
See, the problem with that is, I actually sort of agree with you on the Adrian thing, because I think if you look, this is the reason why. I get annoyed at this, because I feel like, because people were going so hard that Zeus was like the only reason Gambit had done all that shit, I put out a lot of material to explain the context that it's not just Zeus, there's other things. So then everyone was like, good point, Thorin, fuck Zeus forever. It was all a dread. Like, that's not what I'm saying, is it? I'm trying to be the fucking voice of reason. So who do I hate then? And who is the total shit? Like, that's not the point. But the reason why I do think Zeus's time in Gambit was overrated is because when I watched them play, they didn't have like that classic Navi, like slow setups and amazing play around all the different players and roles. If you watch them play, a lot of it was just that Adren and Hobbit were fucking amazing. And Adren especially, because here's the thing. Hobbit could frag like the best player in the team. But Adren was like, people have even overused this cliche. He was like the Swiss Army knife for this team. He could do anything you needed. He could entry. He could clutch. He could top frag. He could fucking do literally anything. He was really good with pistols. I bet he did second call like a motherfucker when he needed to. I've even heard a few stories to imply as much. So yeah, I actually think if you have someone like that and you're Zeus, well, now you're fucking enjoying yourself, aren't you? You've got basically someone who can do anything you need, and he pipes up with his own ideas. So I do agree. I think that was probably a big deal. Problem is, as soon as Adren became the in-game leader, then his fucking game started to drop off. So you had the super all-around game, could do anything, mega consistent as well, by the way. As soon as he became the in-game leader, now he's having shit games, and he's on games where he doesn't frag and where he doesn't do any of those things, and where you're like, oh, this is a bit of a risk here. And then obviously at the time you're looking and you're saying, well, what have we given up to get this? Okay, so we've given up Adren, one of our best players. Okay, but we've got this Fitch guy. Maybe he's got potential. Problem is the potential instantly evaporated with that guy. Like, he's the best example I've ever seen. I think one of the guys I work with did a video. I can't remember if it was, I think it might have been Maui Snake. One of them did a video on this where basically he showed that like Fitch is like an example of a player where just got figured out. Like he was doing a couple of things that were cool, and then teams figured out, and he just kept doing it, and it didn't work. That does happen to young players, and so you got to get rid of him. Now you have to get Seized. Well, at this point in time, your logical approach, the only approach that makes sense, is you've got to go back to Adren and Hobbit as your star players. Let's make Hobbit the fucking in-game leader now. Not only your star player who hadn't fallen off, like while Adren fell off, Hobbit was still really good, but even worse, as you say, someone with fuck all experience. Someone who just doesn't... There's nothing even about his game suggested he would be a good in-game leader. Like, he's a good player, but I would never imagine... And if you know his personality, he's the quietest motherfucker on the team. Like, nothing about that one made sense. That's why I knew when they made that particular move, that was where it's like, we have tried everything. Because if you remember, they even had a brief period, they claimed they made Dorsey the in-game leader. So at this point in time, you just tried everything.
I know. And it is a claim. It is a claim. Like, I'll still never accept that Dorsey has ever been the in-game leader of anything. Like, you know what I mean?
So, so what map do you pick? Are you stripper? Hey, listen, he wants Mirage. Leave it at that. We'll talk back there. See ya.
It's unreal, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, like, I think Gambit have got to get the shit together. They're still a fucking great team.
It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's just sad now because it's like they got a fucking great roster. They really do have some good players.
If you've actually looked, right, especially the tournaments they've played this year, it's not like they just get straight banged out of all the tournaments.
No,
they always lose like a 3-map series with close games. That's why it killed me when they made Hobbit the in-game leader, because they were doing that in those games. Like, he would be getting like, the fucking 12 frags, and then they'd lose like 16-14. I'd be going, there's an obvious solution here if you could just maybe put him into the... But the problem, obviously, in that whole region, as we've learned, is in-game leaders, isn't it? Because if you notice at the moment, everyone's stuck. Like, no one for love nor money can get Angel out of HellRaisers. It's not just Navi tried. Some fucking other teams. I think Mouse Sports tried. There's a few other teams. I think maybe Optic. A few of them tried to get him out. Can't get him out. Blade, no one wants because he is the existence of his region. That's the analogy to give, by the way. I've tried to say it the other way, but that's the one. No one wants to play with this guy. So he's stuck in Flipside. Obviously, no one's buying Zeus right now. He has no fucking stock. So there's no one left. Yeah. That's it.
That is it indeed.
It's a sad state of affairs because they've got so much talent in that region. I guarantee in terms of raw talent, if you could put a load of in-game leaders with them, you could have a bunch of players that in a year and you'd be thinking were a top player, but they're never going to make it to there because they're never going to meet the guy who's going to help them get to that level. Sadly, they're just going to be some mad fragger who's just like a super high level equivalent of the fucking going Rash me or whatever,
Yeah. So, right. How are we doing for time, by the way, Sam? Because I know now that I'm on the other coast.
We got about, well, what do you mean? How long have we been doing it? We're about hour 5 in.
Yeah, 10. So what, another 25?
Yeah, go for it. But.
Right, good, excellent. Okay, cool. Sorry about that, because Sam's got to get up super early in the morning because I moved coasts. It's all fucked up now. I can't tell time. So let's talk about the Bets.net Masters. I saw you tweeting about this, Duncan, in particular in relation to one of the storylines we'll talk about coming off there. Had some pretty decent games, actually, all things considered. I managed to catch a few of them because I literally had nothing to do.
This is an example of a tournament, by the way, where when you look at it, like you look and you go, that's a bit shit. But then you forget. Remember, the tiers have been all sorts of messed up over the last year in Counter-Strike. So then you start looking and thinking just recently, it's not actually that bad. Like this is like people were acting like this is like a fucking minor or something. This is way better than a minor. Look at some of the teams you have here.
Yeah, it was a good fucking tournament in terms of teams. Honestly, teams that I hadn't seen sort of play
against
high caliber opposition.
Good mix of actual up and coming teams, and then the teams and are still decent, and they actually you got a good spread of playing.
Yeah, and obviously Fragsters were one of those teams that really stood out. More Danish. Talent coming up and had some good results. So look, as I said, let's get into some of the storylines that came out of here. So if by my memory, which right now is obviously pretty shot to pieces because I've been moving and just bombarded with bullshit. But North made it to the final and then lost. And this is the second time it's happened to North because they didn't even win Copenhagen games, which should have been a fucking turn up and win sort of slam dunk for them. They lost to the Imperial in the final of that as well. Now, I saw you tweet out, I think it was a very Donald Trump-esque tweet. I think you just said, North is a mess or something like that. Like just like Trump was talking about Jeb Bush. But what the fuck's going on there? Because again, when I looked at this tournament, I was like, all right, well, I can't back Virtus.Pro. I don't back Godsent. So for me, it's got to be between, HellRaisers, Gambit, North. Those were the three teams. And I probably had North as slight favourites, especially by the time they made it to the final. So what the fuck is going on with North? Why can't they close out any of these smaller tournaments? I mean, surely a team of that caliber, all the money they've spent, these are the type of tournaments they should be turning up and winning for fun.
Oh, especially because what's ridiculous is if you go and look at the North games they played, they were like, North famously with that last lineup was like, we're a Mirage and Cobblestone team. We'll be picking that every time it's available, and that's the only maps we want to play. People were like picking the other map into them all day long. They basically got the maps they dreamed of until eventually, by the time they got to the final and they lost to HellRaisers, they themselves banned Cobblestone because they got the shit pushed in. So they were like, actually, we don't play that map anymore. So yeah, this should have been a slam dunk for North, especially when you add in, it's a best of 3 double elim tournament. Like, you can't get, accidentally punked out of the tournament by, some mad... you can't, play Fragsters and they win 1 best of 1 and suddenly it's like, that was my gimme. Oh, and then what, I'm playing Virtus.Pro to go through. No, you have to play best of 3s. So, to me, this is even worse than messing up Copenhagen games because this was conclusively showed that there's real problems with North as a top team. And then when I watched them as a team, the other half that you've forgotten of that tweet is when I said North's a mess, I said, well, actually, maybe these were 2 separate tweets. Maybe I'm conflating them. But the one part of North that is not is fucking Valde. Ever since Believe it or not, right? So when Config left and Kirby came in, logically, you think of Kirby's past and you go, right, that's probably why he left, isn't it? He wants to be the star player again. He wants to be an MSL system. Kirby's been fucking pedestrian, mate. He's all right. He's not bad, but he's just okay. Valde is balling out of control. Every tournament I've seen him in this year, what's mad is his team doesn't look good. He looks fucking fire. Like I was talking about before with the Dren, he's got like an all-round game. He top frags and he wins clutches. He looks smart. He doesn't look like he gets all the resources pumped through him. I still think they probably do go with Kirby. And they obviously, with Mertz being aggressive AWPer, they're definitely giving him resources. You look at the others, right? On paper, that should be a good lineup. You got Mertz is supposed to be this top aggressive up and coming out. He's been fucking non-existent, mate. He's all right. He has the odd game, but nothing like what he was billed as. Like he was billed as like, this is going to be the next best Danish AWPer with Yogi and Device. He's not even close at the moment. Yeah. Kirby's like pedestrian, as I say. Valde's a fucking baller. He is very, very good. But then again, I'll have to use the simple logic on that one. If he's playing this well, and as I said, not just fragging, impact game, and you're not winning these tournaments, well, what the fuck would you be like if he was playing like a normal player? You'd be terrible. So when you look at the maps they're losing on, the opponents they're losing to, this is super underwhelming from North. Like I have to say, I have a rule. I've mentioned it on this show before. Sadly, I've never done a video on it yet. I should really get around to it. Where I have like a rough gauge. My rule is once you've played 3 or 4 LANs, I don't need to see any more. I can guess from your 3 or 4 LANs who you are as a team and what a reasonable trajectory for you is. Because think about it. No one does 4 LANs, then does a jump up 50% level. It just doesn't really ever happen. Or if they did, it'd be for one tournament and they go right back down again. So as a result, you look at North this year, fucking hell, this is like a 16th best team in the world type scenario. And they've already played a bunch of LANs. It doesn't look to me like anything's going to change. So I have to say, I'm out on North. I don't see any fucking future in this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one for me because it's like I say, up until the final of this tournament, I thought Mertz played very well. I thought he was a pretty dominant force against Fragsters, for example. We always know Danish action can always throw up some fucking weird results. I agree. I think what Valde brings to the team is, like, if he's a complete player. You don't often say that about people. Like, he can entry, he can play the supporting roles, he can hold down a bomb site by himself, like, he's got it all, like, no doubt about that. Kirby's just been, like you say, a little bit underwhelming because we all remember the high skill ceiling that we know he can play to. But it's like, again, it's like, I hate to say it, man, because it's not like he's playing particularly bad at the moment. I just don't understand.
No, but I mean, those 2 players are Lord. If you think of what Kirby can do, that should be the tournament, right? It should be both of these Copenhagen games and this one.
But what I was going to say was, it's AZ. I still do not understand.
He's still garbage, man.
Yeah, no, but I still do not understand what he does. And it's like you say, like even a 70% Kirby is better than a 100% AZ. Getting the Valde we've got right now, this cultured, really intelligent player. Again, great to watch. Like, somebody should just go and study his demos because he's so fucking cerebral in how he does everything. Mertz has been a real good find. Like, a real good find. And MSL, as I said, for all of his idiosyncrasies, he can he's a very good in-game leader. If we had the rules that we used to have, where you could have a coach calling in-game all of the time, MSL would be the obvious choice to just have him as the fucking 6th man overlooking all of the parts. He will always have that kind of mind. But it's just AZ in this team. I just don't understand. It's not even like he's bad. He's just inexplicable.
Here's something that I've just realized as well. No one else put this together, I've noticed. Right? If you think about it, so I'm going to assume within North, like I do at the moment, this is my working theory for the team, is that MSL thinks AZ's his guy. Like, he's got a connection with him. He knows how I play. I'll say this, as a teammate, he's a really nice guy. I don't think he ever causes problems. Don't he ever talk shit. I bet he does. I bet you tell him do this and he goes and tries and does it, okay? But think about how crazy this is. So you got these other players you took your risk on. You got Mertz, you got Kirby. Valde's obviously a prime talent that's still on his way up. Remember, like 2 months ago, where out of nowhere, Rubino came back and joined Heroic. Why the fuck isn't he in this team? He used to be on North. You've got way more money than Heroic. He's exactly the player you want. Someone who'll do his job, will shut the fuck up, has played in MSL system. That's like a fucking open and shut move there. And if he's willing to join Heroic, come on, surely he's willing to join North.
Yeah.
How have you missed that one?
Yeah, it's just weird. Like I say, AZ for me, like when you think like to 2015, I want to say,
yes.
he was a star player, like, big buyout, he's rocking fucking that Dignitas team, and then and he since then it's like he's just never. It's been a slow, steady downward trajectory. He's actually playing better now than he has for a while, but it's like I say, I just don't understand what he does. It's like he is the most pedestrian, dull player right now. It's just like this is fucking North, dude. Like
probably the most overpaid player in the world who doesn't say cover.
Yeah, right. He literally could just be replaced by almost anybody, and I don't think it would like necessarily be an upgrade or a downgrade. Like, as in, you could just take a very ordinary player, put him in place for AZ, and I think North are at the level they're at now. So they've surely got to. Again, I don't know if MSL thinks he's like his muse, like, if I've got AZ in the team, I can always trust him to do the things I need to do. But if he does think that way, he's got to unthink it, because that is the one area for replacement. That is where you make the upgrade now. It can't be Valde, it can't be Mertz, it can't be Kierby. So you either take yourself out of the fucking game, or you accept that North are not going to close out tournaments like this while AZ's on the roster.
Sad thing is, if I had to bet right now, I go ahead and bet they don't do that at all. They play at least 3 more months of this lineup. They don't get big results. Like this lineup, no joke. If you look at this lineup and the fucking map pool and what it takes to win a game, like a good tournament for these guys would be go to a real tier 1 tournament and come top 8. That's it. They're not going to be making finals or winning shit. That isn't even on the table. Like, that's not even within the realms of imagination,
Yeah, it's just weird, man. Other talking points. Obviously, we got to talk about HellRaisers. Now, again, HellRaisers is always one of the little stumbling blocks for you and I, because when this team was first put together, we were like, why don't you just fucking end it? Why don't you just end it? Like, and somehow, despite having Dead Fox on the roster, another inexplicable player who has always managed to evade being dropped somehow since he joined, they've actually. It's just worked, Issa is a really, really good player. Woxic is like playing so well at LANs right now, despite having that reputation as an onliner. And again, makes you wonder if he could squash the beef with Space Soldiers, what that team might look like. Bondik's back, playing well. And Angel, fuck it. I never bought the bullshit that you used to put out there. Like, I think it was you and Moses were always like saying, yeah, this guy is a sick in-game leader. I'm on board now. Fuck it, he must be. He must be, because to go.
How many lineups he's used?
Yeah, I know. He must be. He actually must be one of the smartest motherfuckers in town. Like, I never believed it for a second. When you used to say it, I used to sit here and just be like, here we go.
Like, the thing is, as far as I know, I don't think he runs like a mega tactical system. I don't think they run a lot of stuff. But if you look at his teams, I think part of the success is that he can sort of figure out how to use people. Like, if you notice, he's getting a lot of the young tech. He gets Oscar. He gets fucking. Who was the last one they had after that? They had Bondik at some point in time. You get these people, and generally you give them a bit of room and you figure out, right, this guy can do this, and then you let him go.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about the coach that they've got over there.
John Tutt.
Yeah. And that, he might be part of the success. But, like, for HellRaisers to win this tournament, I mean, let's be clear. They were certainly in the mix, and I certainly had them as a potential pick to win it. But overall, like, if you look at some of the results they had here and some of the other teams that were in, they could have still easily slotted into dark horse territory. Virtus.Pro are back. They might have all their problems solved. Gambit's there. North are obviously there. It's not like HellRaisers were even realistically a top 3 pick to win a tournament of this stature. But they actually went through, manhandled Red Reserve, obviously beat North 2-0 and then beat them again 2-1 in the final. Like, these are not fluke results. HellRaisers has been a consistently good team for a while now and is now starting to win those sort of tier 2 tournaments with good teams in attendance. So I got to say it, out of all of the crazy situations that I've seen.
All right, am I back?
Yeah.
There we go.
Was it you who went?
I just dropped for some reason, but I think I only missed like half a sentence or something.
All right, yeah. So just saying, like, I just think it's time now where it's like HellRaisers. deserve to be in contention. Like, I don't know where they would be in your top 10, Duncan, but I think they're getting to
close
a point
to the bottom, but they'll be in there.
Yeah, I think they're getting to a point now where actually you got to take them very seriously, and a tournament win like this is fucking great.
Restart your webcam, by the way, Duncan is still off.
Still off? Wait a sec.
I'll restart.
Is it on now?
No.
That's weird.
Leave the call and come back.
Yeah. Oh, nice. We'll fix it on the fly. Glad you're here, Sam.
What about now?
We're in. Go.
Right.
Can you see me?
Yep, we're good.
Right, okay.
Good. Excellent.
Right, the big issue with this team is I think they're a really good upset team. Like, I think if they get you on the right maps, they've got a good chance. I will say, this is why I don't put, like, all the credit on Angel. A massive amount of it is fragging in this particular lineup, especially. I did think the lineup they had with, like, Zero and Stickle, was a little bit more finesse. This one is all about fucking Woxit going ham. Issa had I thought he had some issues early on adapting to LAN. He's actually been pretty solid. And then I think the main reason they won this tournament, actually, even though I'll give them credit, they smashed North in the upper bracket. But that final, the 2 maps they won, was so razor thin. And the first map, the cash game, was the one where it was like the fucking classic. I told you, every 10 maps, Dead Fox remembers how to play Counter-Strike and has a good game. And he had his one good game there to narrowly get him through on that map, and that massively helped them win the tournament. So I think they're a good team. I don't think they have that much trajectory, though, personally. I think they're kind of like where they should be. They're like solid. They've done better than you expect. They have upset potential. That's pretty cool if as I say, if they get you on maps like Cobblestone, Overpass, they can do a lot. But I'm not really buying them to go much further because I think a lot of it at the moment is like Woxit goes ham. You get the odd occasional Dead Fox get. I still think he's a terrible player. Yeah. And then but here's the thing: if Issa can keep improving, that's the potential. Because then if you've got him and you've got Woxit, as everyone knows, I already think Angel's a pretty good fragging in-game leader. There's some pretty solid firepower, and then you add in a couple of specialist maps. That's a tasty little team there.
Yeah. So one of the story that came out of this particular tournament, I'm going to use it to segue into a general point, is what happened with Virtus.Pro, back to normal, it seems. Very underwhelming at this event. And
one thing, can I say one thing, actually? I just remembered.
Jump in.
Because if we're going to talk about Virtus.Pro now, one thing I will say, though, because it's a team we probably won't talk about, is Godsent, right? Yeah. Godsent took that Brolin guy who was 15 years old, and he went fucking nuclear at this event. That's quite cool, because obviously we don't have a crop of young Swedes now. They're all in NIP, or they've just been abandoned, so there's got to be someone who's the next. So here's the thing, if you're 15, you're not going to be on the fucking best team in the world now, but watch for like a year from now, then we might see something.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up, actually. I had a lot of people hitting me up on Twitter saying this is the young Swede that we've been waiting for to come through, because obviously a lot of the talent, has kind of fallen by the wayside. It's always been like, the Disco Dopplins get hyped up, and then where the fuck are they at in 6 months' time? So hopefully he gets the development that he deserves and doesn't fucking fall into the rabbit hole of Swedish politics. Because with that, I don't mean literally, obviously, which is pretty fucking bad. But I do mean, just in terms of Counter-Strike, because that would suck. But anyway, yeah. So Virtus.Pro is, sort of looking back to normal. Like they had the one event where Mihu really sort of like stood out for them, and they were able to do pretty well, and beat FaZe, all that, all that good stuff. And then here we got an event where they should have been on that rich vein of form, where you're like, they're going to do well. And lo and behold, back to normal. And the general point I wanted to sort of push off this, they finished fourth at a tournament where Fragsters finished above them. And the only teams below them were like Gambit, Godsent, Red Reserve, Forza. Not a good look for a team that had supposedly fixed all of its problems. Now, one of the things that I wanted to just bring up as a general point while we talk about whether or not Virtus.Pro is like a little honeymoon period with me, who is like, I don't know if pasha is the Polish word for self-pity, but his... Oh,
by the way, this is how you can tell how Virtus.Pro did in a tournament. Yeah. As soon as you get what I'm going to term wistful papa, so it's kind of like, instead of Pepe's, let's have papas. Get a picture of him when he's just sad. And as soon as he does some tweet, I don't know what's going on with my team. Like, that's when you just know everything's gone to shit inside.
Feels fucking bad. I don't know what the fuck he's trying to do. Is he trying to get cut? Is he had enough? Because every time I see him tweet about how they did it at a tournament, he's just tweeting random shit like full-time streamer. That was one tweet intimating he was going to be a full-time streamer. Well, you haven't done that, so why tweet that out? Prior to that, he tweeted I think I quit or something, like intimating he was going to retire. Well, you didn't do that. Then he did a tweet, this was a month ago, it was like, my 16 frags and 110 not help. See ya? Well, what the fuck does that mean, mate?
See you where?
Yeah, see you where? Exactly. What the fuck? What do you mean? And then he did a tweet the other day. I don't know what to think about Virtus.Pro, which sounds like a really shit Family Brothers comedy. So, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, is he trying to get cut? Like, what's he doing?
Feel like here's the thing. He gets depressed. He knows there's problems in the team. You know, he looks around the team. He knows how they had to literally fucking use the jaws of life to get Taz out of that motherfucker because they're all making so much. So he knows no one's going to just leave out of choice, are they? He looks around. Bialy's fucking dick around PUBG. He's still better than me. Snacks. I mean, he's got that cat that knows loads about Counter-Strike. Not bad. See how I did that? Mihu, he's brand new and also doing pretty well. And he goes, maybe I should just do the honourable thing, you know, step down. I have got a streaming career. And then he gets like an SMS. $40,000 have been deposited into my bank account. Yeah, it's just a tweet and it's not binding.
Can't make me make me fucking do it. Yeah, it's just
now. Like, where's my Bowflex?
Listen, I don't know, man. I think this motherfucker's trying to get cut or something. Because why you just tweet? Like, how's that helping the team? Like, how is it helping the team? Like, seriously, he is a senior pro. Like, someone did just put in the chat, his 30th birthday's coming up. Well, that was the today. Well, happy birthday. We're gonna wreck you. We're gonna straight wreck you.
It's all right. In Poland, no, it was yesterday. It's okay. We passed it. Didn't start talking. We waited until the clock struck 12, and then we unleashed on his full-time streamer ass.
Yeah. But it's just like, listen, it's not helping the team. Like, first of all, you're intimating like, oh, I played, I did this thing and it didn't help. So see ya. Then you're intimating you're gonna go full-time streamer. Then you're like, I don't know what to think about Virtus.Pro. What do you mean? The org, the team? Like,
how many ways can one man say I quit without ever quitting?
I know, just fucking do it, mate. You want Vince McMahon to come in and go, you're fired. Is this the shit? Like, it doesn't work like that. Either fucking shit or get off the fucking pot, my brother. It's so fucked up. And again, it makes me wonder about these contracts. Like you said, Jaws of life. It's like, you know, does he want out? Like, Pasha would make a fortune as a full-time streamer. He'll be fine. Like, he'll never have to work again or play again.
I'm looking here, right? Okay, the Major and Katowice, he has really bad stats. This Bet's Masters tournament, he had mega stats.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He played fucking sick, so obviously he's tilted off the face of the earth. And it's just like, listen, Doug, this is what Virtus.Pro is going to be like right now. This is it forever. Just deal with it. You're going to have to fucking deal with it. But I don't know, man. I just think his Twitter feed is like a fucking, like, coming from me and you. It's like a fucking...
It's so narcissistic, isn't it? He's always talking about himself.
Oh, yeah. Always talking about himself. Always saying things that don't necessarily act in his first self-interest. Yeah, all right. Maybe we're not the motherfuckers to lecture anyone on that shit. A moment of self-awareness just spiked into my brain there. But still, like, you're not helping the team. We're not in a team. The only thing we have to fucking think about is our own self. And our own selfish needs. Pasha, you got 4 of the motherfuckers, like, working with y'all. Like, you can't be saying, I go full-time streamer now. They're going to think, well, what if he means it this time? Do we need to replace him? What does it do? Can't be good for morale. Like, and as I said, you've brought in Mihu. Looks good initially. Don't pretend that Mihu was going to fix all the problems. You had a fucking unbelievable laundry list of problems. Like, you know, you weren't fixing it just for one player transfer. So, I don't know. Fucking Virtus.Pro, man. They're a riddle locked in an enigma, locked in a fucking badly coded Papa Biceps tweet. Like, how the fuck do you decipher it? Speaking of which, this made me laugh. It's kind of tangentially linked. And I've got to wonder, I've got a theory about this. Right? You remember when Bialy had been playing PUBG? Like, how fucking dare he do that, right? And all the community, especially their own fans, attacked him because they were like, you're playing bad and you're playing another game. Like, you're not sinking every waking hour into Counter-Strike. How dare you? So Steam have announced something that's going to benefit Bialy.
Yeah. I saw this today, yeah.
Yeah, they've got new profile privacy settings where you can just basically hide your game details. So you have to opt in to show how many hours you've played in games. Pros, I'm convinced Valve have done this for pro players. I swear to God, because pros have been crying out for this for years.
And by the way, some of them, I'm not going to name names. Some of these little rats before every major with 160 hours in 2 weeks. Fuck everything about you. You didn't play 160 hours. You know who you are in an Eastern European team. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Like, you know, you can tell some of them did the opposite, Rich. They knew that of all the pleb fans are looking, so they were like, I'll top these charts. Idle away. Just have some bot or something moving inside the server.
So I'm not saying necessarily the pros got this done. That might be a bit of a leap. But I'll tell you, pros have been crying out for this for ages. You used to know, like, for example, every time a new World of Warcraft expansion came out back in the day, you could tell which team was going to flop at LAN. Because like, which motherfucker's always on your Battle.net playing fucking World of Warcraft? Like, everyone, you all knew which pros were obsessed with that game before they became Counter-Strike pros and shit. So you knew which team would get ravaged by it. And equally, you know, I know this from, this is probably getting way off the beaten path, so I'll bring it back in a second. But when I did a lot of investigations into betting rings and match-fixing rings, one of the things that they all used to do was they had, like, somebody on a pro player's account who would feed back to a database how many hours in the game they had been playing, what games they'd been playing, you know, and things like this. So you could bet accordingly, like, oh, he's only got 20 hours practice in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, don't fancy that. And I'll show you databases from these betting circles where literally people that these players probably thought were their friends or people they maybe had a pug with once in a while were literally like fucking mining data off their Steam profile to tell people how to bet with skins. So I think this is a great move. Loads of people have been like, this isn't what Steam is about. I think it's brilliant. I also love that fucking invisible mode they've got as well, where if I want to send you a message, you can see it and I can receive it, but you'll never know I'm online. Fuck all of y'all. I got motherfuckers still asking if I want to play this game. Fuck off. No, I don't. No, I don't. You'll know when I do. I'll be streaming it, you mad cunts. Leave me alone. I don't want to have a mix. I'm sorry. I'm busy. So
we need a fifth. Quick, it's 3 a.m, but we need a fifth now.
Yeah, just leave me alone. I don't want to be social. I'm an old man.
Pasha, I don't want to fucking practice with Virtus.Pro. I've told you, get Bialy. Yeah. We can't. He's in PUBG. He's about to get a chicken dinner or something.
So fuck that, right? So anyway, so that was the bets.net. I thought it was a good tournament. I thought I had some great games. I was really grateful it was on, actually, because like I say, all I had was a laptop and an empty fucking house. I was in a hotel, just sat watching these games, whatever the fuck. Let's start winding down the show, Sam. I know we're on the clock. Let's talk about Skadoodle. Weird situation over here with Cloud9. We'll end strong. So Skadoodle was out of the team, was going inactive, then immediately came out of inactivity to stand in for Cloud9 while they replaced him. I'm guessing maybe a transfer that they thought they were going to do had fallen through or some shit like that. Then played really well, actually, while he was acting as the stand-in, almost as if there was some sort of psychological component to Skadoodle. Who knew? Then just tweeted out saying, oh, by the way, Skadaddy is back, baby. So I'm trying to piece together what this could mean. Does it mean Skadaddy is back in like Cloud9? Or does he mean he's got another team?
Because it means he's back in Cloud9, based on my information.
Right, okay, but how does that fit in with what everyone's seeing on the outside, which is Cirque started following Cloud9's lawyer?
Got some info for you, Rich.
Drop some fucking knowledge on me.
So I have certain contacts within the Cloud9 organization. And actually, I have to say, it's pretty cool. They basically told me, like, that will be quite transparent with you. Like, if we tell you stuff, you can say it. So the basic logic, because basically, the reason I got in contact with Cloud9 is I just sort of tried to ask behind the scenes, you know, what's going on? Are the buyouts too high or something? Like, you know, this can't be sort of your actual choice. And apparently, according to them, it is. Like, apparently they literally could have gotten some of the names you have heard mentioned, and they have instead chosen to go with Skadoodle, at least for now, because, funnily enough, here's the thing, they're smart guys. Remember what I said in that video where I said FNS should join? One of the reasons I said they should recruit FNS is I thought he might be one of the only people who could use Skadoodle correctly. And I think they agree with that, basically. They actually want to see what FNS can do with Skadoodle before they... Well, I don't know what their long-term plan is, but that's the plan. Is like they think this lineup can actually work. I mean, already Skadoodle's played decently enough with FNS. Maybe he can be the man who unlocks him. Because obviously, this is the part that is obvious. I understand why people don't want to give up on Skadoodle. Because if you could somehow wind back the clock 3 years... You'd have a fucking fire team, wouldn't you? Really good AWPer. You've got Tarek as well. You've got Rush. You've got star players, and you've got a good AWP. Then it'd be great. The problem is he hasn't been that for at least a year and a half. So to me, yeah, I agree. I would have chucked it away. Then again, though, this was my own logic as to why they should bring him back. So, okay, if I had to go between the two, I don't know what their choice is, but I would say give it 2 months or something. Give him a couple of LANs, some online games. If it doesn't work after that, go with a buyout anyway, if you can really do one. If not, whatever. I don't think this team's shooting for the stars, so you've got probably a bit of breathing room. You're not expected to do massive things immediately.
Yeah, it's just weird to me, though, because if Cirque was an option, this motherfucker's, like, you talk about people balling out of control. Cirque right now is hot shit, like, no fucking doubt about it. We all, again, another one with HellRaisers to put in the we got unlucky file. You know, it turned out he was a fucking absolute monster. And it's no fucking joke. Now, if it would have been sad to see him go from NRG, because I think that might have been the end of that team. Like, occasionally you get a group of players come together, everybody's at peak form, and as soon as you take, it's like Jenga, you know, as soon as you take one brick out, it becomes more and more unstable until eventually it collapses. So,
although we know all the shit tier fans would be like, no, NRG, you should immediately try and sell your best player because that's the only good thing that Orgs can do.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I think NRG is a pretty good org when it comes to that stuff. I think they would have let him go if a buyout was met. Maybe it's high. Like, I don't know enough about it. But certainly it looked like Cirque and Cloud9 definitely had talks. And I think he would have been fucking great. I'd have loved to have seen him on Cloud9. For real. I would have loved to have seen him.
I would have gone with the gamble, put it that way. I would have gone for that.
Well, yeah, because it's a gamble of a fucking explosive new talent, or the same old, which is Skadoodle. Yeah, exactly. Maybe one every 10 games, you're going to see what Skadoodle can do. So that was a bit of a strange situation for me. So I don't know. I hope Cloud9 haven't missed out in a big way by sticking with the devil, you know. But I guess we'll wait and see. And I think it's a great story for Cirque, because trust me, NRG's working right now. It's not fluke. It's not just online performances. They'll perform at a LAN. I'm really confident about that and do well. So just one last story, Sam, and then we will wrap up. It's just a quick one, so don't worry. I did see an awesome tweet, a bit of good news, but also a hilarious, unintentional double entendre from Shocks. Shocks put a tweet. Yeah, it's a very unintentionally sexual tweet. So we all know Shocks has had some surgery on his wrist, and he said that he's been getting. Yeah. So he did this tweet the other day. And we all know Shocks is a stud. Like, everybody remembers the story from when he was talking to the makeup.
Could be the X-God. That would actually apply to him.
He is the real X-God, no doubt about it. Like you said, when me and Duncan had him at Gfinity, people remember the story about the makeup lady. And Shocks is just a fucking baller. He's an absolute legend. But he put this tweet out. It just made me fucking laugh. He said, the nurse came for the last time. I don't know. I can't do it. I can't even do an accent anymore. I won't. The nurse came for the last time yesterday. Dresses are gone instead of dressings. So in other words, it's just like a fucking Carry On movie or something. Oh, it's unreal, isn't it? I just thought it was fucking ridiculous. Just like, the dresses are gone.
He has no clue. He's he's just so innocent, and he's like, nothing wrong with this tweet, is there? No, and to me.
Oh, it's banging, mate. So I'm super happy for him. I really want to see him back in action. Not like that. Honestly, yes, server preferably.
Top 5 players I'd like to see in a porn. He's got to be in my top 5.
Yeah, I'd give you that. I think that's a reasonable assessment, actually. Anyway, so before Duncan ends his career one more time and uses up another one of his 9 lives, let's get the fuck off this podcast. So, obviously, the podcast is funded by you, the patrons. We are super grateful for all of that. So, a shout out to our $100 patrons, Detlef Insomniac, Chris and Win, Hyolu, Ruxon, and Jerky's Minion, of course. And then our $50 patrons, the Archangel Varao, Carter, Daniel Plamanov Yordanov, Vexy, Nostradamus, Andreas Snazor Westerlund, Marcus Kyunpar, Madsen, Mama Jamma Hennessy, Keith Miller, Benakagi Assassin, and William Southern. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. We'll buy the numbers. I'm going to get settled in. There'll be some furniture all up in this fucking room. So yes, I see no problems with sticking to a regular schedule. Fingers crossed. Until next time, take care of yourselves.